The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our broadcast affiliates and satellite programming providers and on TalkStream Live. If you'd like to send us an email, it's very simple, studio@xzoneradiotv.com and our website, xzonerradio.com. People say, Rob, why do you say our radio website? It's very simple, because we have the X-Zone Radio Show and then we have the X-Zone TV Show. And speaking about which, if you'd like to take a look at the first season of the X-Zone TV show that we shot in 2015, all 12 episodes are available with our compliments and the compliments of our many advertisers at www.xzonetv.com. And on all social media sites, once again, X-Zone Radio TV. My guest this hour is a gentleman that we've had on the show before. Robert Waggoner is his name, and 40 years ago, author Robert Waggoner taught himself a simple trick to lucid dreaming, or become consciously aware of dreaming while in the dream state. Logging more than 1,000 lucid dreams since that time, he has used this scientifically validated state to explore lucid dreaming's potential for accessing subconscious creativity, healing the emotional and physical self, seeking spiritual insights, and communicating with an aware and responsive inner self. After the success of his highly acclaimed book, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, Robert has written a second book with co-author Carolyn McCready, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, to help beginners induce lucid dreams, stabilizing them, and learn how to use them for growth, healing, and personal transformation. His website, www.lucidadvice.com. Oh, and by the way, he also co-edits an online magazine at the Lucid Dreaming Experience at luciddreammagazine.com. And Robert, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Thanks for having me.
You and I chatted very briefly between getting you on the line and going to air that I have found that more and more people are talking about dreaming, and the interest in dreams of all sorts is spiking. Can you give us any reason for that?
Some of it is this interest in lucid dreaming. To become a good lucid dreamer, you have to recall your normal dreams. And as you begin to recall your normal dreams, they just seem so incredibly creative, fascinating, and sometimes alarming and mystifying that people just get dragged into it. So dreaming and lucid dreaming are both becoming really hot topics now.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. What is a dream, and how is a dream created?
So every night, all of us have dreams.
Mm-hmm.
They go through different stages, and as the night progresses, about every 90 minutes, we have a new dream. The first stage, the dreams are very short. They're just maybe 5 minutes or so, and they get progressively longer as we go throughout these 90-minute cycles during the night. until the final dream cycle is sometimes from 45 minutes long, or almost an hour long. So it's kind of interesting. Every night we spend about 23% of our sleeping time in the dream state. So we spend about 2 hours every night dreaming.
How important is it for a person to dream? Are there any psychological or physiological negative effects if a person doesn't dream?
Right. There are. Now, everyone dreams. I know there's some people out there who can't remember a dream or whatever, but I want to assure them that they do indeed dream. The only exception would be some just strange neurological conditions, but 99.999% of us dream. But what happens, they've done some studies where they've stopped animals from dreaming. So like they'll be working with cats or mice or something. They'll allow them to sleep, but when they get to a dream, they stop them from dreaming. And what happened is in these animals, these lab subjects, that when they stopped them from dreaming after a number of days, even though they were well fed, they were getting some sleep, but not being allowed to dream, they just began to die.
Wow.
And so you begin to wonder, why did that response occur? But we know from some scientific work that dreaming helps with emotional processing. It seems to help create new associations, so it helps with creativity. It seems to help with memory processing. So we can tell that it has some functions, but it was really quite interesting to see that these poor animals who were not allowed to dream for almost a week's time, even though they were healthy, they just began to die.
So tell me, Robert, what was it that happened that created such an interest in dreams with you that you've written about it? You're helping people to have lucid dreams. You write about it. You do an online magazine. What was the pivotal point in your life that, turned you into the dream expert?
It was really this incident. It's been more than 40 years now. I was in high school. I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan.
Yeah.
And in this book, Carlos Castaneda, in Waking Reality, he was a UCLA graduate student in anthropology, and he wanted to study psychoactive plants like peyote and all. So he went to the southwestern U.S. to try to find a shamanic teacher, and he stumbles upon this gentleman, Don Juan, who agrees to educate him. But in this book, his shamanic teacher, Don Juan, told him to try and find his hands in the dream state and realize he was dreaming. And there was hardly a technique. There really wasn't a technique in the book, but I just created one because I knew about the power of suggestion by that time.
Sure.
And I just would look at my hands before sleep and tell myself, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And then keep repeating that to myself and do it for about 5 minutes and then fall asleep. Well, to make a long story short, 3 nights later, I'm walking through my high school hallway when suddenly my hands pop right in front of my face, and I realize I'm dreaming. And I don't know, if you've never had a lucid dream, you can't understand what an incredible realization is. It's like some Zen moment when you suddenly have a incredible insight and all of this is a dream.
Yeah. These
are dream figures. This wall is dream stuff. And so just having that first induced lucid dream really set me on a new path.
I have lucid dreams all the time. And when I come into a situation that I think might be a dream, to establish the fact that I am dreaming, I look for a sign, on a building or a newspaper, a menu. And if I cannot read what I should be able to read, I know I'm having a dream, and that's when my fun starts.
and for us lucid dreamers, we call that doing a reality check.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if you look at something written, if you can't read it, or when you turn your head away and look back at it again, the words have now scrambled and there's something else. you definitely know you're in the dream state. And once you know you're lucid dreaming, you're right, then the fun begins.
I've also had a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream.
You know, it's amazing what can happen. Some of my more profound lucid dreams have occurred when I have fallen asleep in a dream and then become lucid in the next level. And so you're right. That's the amazing thing about dreams, and I think that's why people are so fascinated by them, that you can have a dream within a dream.
Yeah.
You can fall asleep in a dream and become lucidly aware. That there's incredible things that happen in the dream state.
Why is it that some people report having dreams in color or black and white? Is there a reason for this?
You know, it's interesting. There's some historical surveys on this, and it's interesting to me that before the advent of color TV, I think the majority of people said they dreamt in black and white, because back then there were black and white TVs.
Yeah.
But as soon as we had color TVs become very prominent, now all of a sudden, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think like 70% of the people say that they always dream in color now, and rarely do people report, or nearly as much, dreaming in black and white. So yeah, that's interesting. One of those curious things, but more people report now dreaming in color, and it's much more than it was historically 50 or 60 years ago.
Tell me, Robert, has lucid dreaming ever been scientifically proven?
You know, it has, and that's the beautiful thing about it, is that this is a scientifically validated state. What happened was that the researchers, like Keith Hearn at the University of Hull over in England, and Stephen LaBerge a couple years later at Stanford, they both realized that you could prove or provide evidence for lucid dreaming if you brought someone into the sleep lab who was a lucid dreamer. You put the REM polygraph pads, the rapid eye movement measures, on their eyes, and told them that when they become consciously aware in a dream, just move their eyes left to right 8 times, and that signal would be so incredibly different than normal rapid eye movement, and it would all be recorded on the rapid eye movement polygraph paper, that it would provide the evidence. And so Keith Hearn did this with a subject, Alan Worsley, in April of 1975, and Stephen LaBerge did much the same study and published his more broadly, so we know about his work more. So, but the scientific evidence really shows that lucid dreaming occurs. Spiritual traditions like Buddhists have been talking about it for almost 2,000 years. There's even some evidence that even beyond that, people have been talking about lucid dreaming. But it's nice to have it scientifically validated.
So tell me, what are some of the practical uses for lucid dreaming?
You know, there's basically 5. The first is just joy and happiness. When you become consciously aware in a lucid dream and can do pretty much whatever you want, there's just an incredible amount of joy and happiness. It's kind of a peak experience. But there's also more practical ways, like using lucid dreaming to access creativity. If you're an artist or a writer or an inventor or an engineer, when you're consciously aware in the subconscious mind, you can actually access new creativity because you're at this new level. Then there's the areas of healing. Lucid dreaming has been used for healing, to help people overcome recurring nightmares that they might have because of post-traumatic stress disorder. They've used lucid dreaming, some lucid dreamers have, to overcome phobias that they've developed. So there's all those emotional issues. In my books, I have chapters on people who've used it to heal themselves of physical ailments. And some of these people have just had dramatic physical improvements. And then the final important points or practical uses of lucid dreaming, there's the spiritual growth aspect. So if you think of meditating in a lucid dream, it's a much more incredible experience for most people than it is in the waking state. You get to a deeper state in the lucid dream much more quickly. And then finally, there's the issue of interacting with your larger awareness. That's why I call my first book Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self. In lucid dreams, you can stop and just shout out a question to the larger awareness and get a response. So those are all the ways that lucid dreaming has practical application for people.
You know, you've talked in your book about people healing themselves during the lucid dream stage. How does that work?
So what happens? Normally, the person becomes consciously aware. They'll see something odd, like an elephant flying or something, and they'll go, "Wait a second, that can't be real. Oh, this is a dream." And then at that moment, oftentimes if they'll just stop for a second and remember what they wanted to do, and for some of those people, it's to heal their physical body. In my magazine, Lucid Dreaming Experience, the September 2015 issue, there's an article about a Canadian gentleman. He had developed in his life GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease, but it was so bad that he had to sleep in an easy chair. He had to sleep upright because this GERD was so bad. And so he was a good lucid dreamer. He had read my first book. He had seen how other people had physically healed themselves. And so he became lucidly aware. And the first time he just kind of brought some energy into his midsection, intending for himself to be healed. And so when he woke up, he felt better, but he didn't feel truly healed. So in this case, it took another lucid dream. And in the second lucid dream, he became lucidly aware. He remembered he wanted to heal himself. And this time, he asked all the dream figures in the lucid dream if they would support him in trying to heal himself. And they all agreed to. And then he said all the dream figures put out their hands, and from their hands came a light that came into his dream body, and he felt this incredible healing effect. And when he woke up, he just knew that a healing had occurred. And after that, he could sleep lying down without any problems. The GERD hadn't returned in 2 years' time.
Wow.
And so that's kind of just one simple example of someone getting rid of a physical ailment. But there's other ways of approaching it, and there's a lot of different techniques you can use.
Could you share a couple of stories with us that, besides the one you just shared with us, how lucid dreaming has helped people with their physical illnesses and their physical disabilities?
Right. So here's an example from our more recent book, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, and it's one that my co-author provided. Her name is Carolyn McCready. She lives in the UK in London. And so one night she became lucidly aware, and she remembered that she had this horrible cold. I mean, one of those colds that you just can't stand. You just can't seem to shake. And it really was hurting her throat. And so in her lucid dream, she announced that her throat would be healed. And so she made the announcement that now my throat is healed. Thank you. And she expressed gratitude for her throat being healed. And she said when she woke up, she realized that her throat was healed. Her throat felt 100% better, but the other symptoms of the cold hadn't been taken care of because she had been so specific. And that's one curious thing that I try to teach lucid dreamers in these books, is that your wording choice when you make a request or an announcement has to be very well thought out, because your intent, if you want your throat healed, your throat might be healed, but not the rest of the cold. And that's the kind of experience that happened to her. In another case, there's a woman, Beverly D'Urso, and she was one of the main researchers that Stephen LaBerge used in his sleep lab at Stanford. In Waking Life, a number of years ago, she developed enlarged uterus with a cyst and a mass. And she was such a good lucid dreamer that after she got back from the doctor, within a couple nights, she had a lucid dream. And first she asked some dream figures to explain what was happening to her, and they couldn't give her anything helpful. And so then she just shouted out, which I encourage people to do, to the larger awareness. And she shouted out, "Hey, what does this mean? What does this physical ailment mean?" And then she began to see all these horrible things, planes falling out of the sky, ambulances, skeletons appeared like on Halloween. And so she knew that this physical ailment was really problematic. So in her next lucid dream, she became consciously aware when she saw geometric forms of colored light that were floating in the space high above her. And in the lucid dream, her son got upset about it, but she said, "Oh no, they've come to heal me." And she said suddenly these geometric forms of light began to shoot light on her, and she felt it as a healing energy. She felt it as a warmth, as an energy. So as it turned out, the next day she had to go back to the doctor. He was going to do some more studies. I don't know what it was, MRI or something. But now he discovered that she no longer had an enlarged uterus, and also the cyst and the mass were gone. And so that's one of those incredible things that sudden spontaneous remissions can occur, but it seems like it's helped by the lucid dreamer's intent.
What about lucid dreaming and the interacting with the deceased?
That's really a fascinating area because oftentimes lucid dreamers spontaneously become lucidly aware when they see someone who's passed over. You see your deceased uncle and you think, wait a second, how can he be here? He passed away 10 years ago. And all of a sudden, for lucid dreamers, that's the moment they become consciously aware. But the interesting thing about it, though, is sometimes I feel the dream figure, the deceased dream figure, is just a symbolic creation. Like if you're having a dream of a Thanksgiving party with the family and Dad's there, even though Dad passed away 15 years ago, he's just a symbolic element. He's just part and parcel of the experience there. But on other times, when you're lucidly aware, you can do like I did. And 3 years after my father died, I'm having a dream one night where I see someone coming down a ladder, and I see it's my father, and I realize, oh, this is a dream because Dad's dead. But then I wondered, is he just a symbol, or is he something else, a spiritual essence or something? And so I went up to him and greeted him, and I decided to ask him questions. And my first question was, I said, "Hey, Dad, you're from the land of the dead, so when do you think Mom's going to pass away?" And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, probably in 2 to 6 years." And I said, "Of what?" And he said, a heart condition. And that really surprised me because my mom had never had any heart trouble. And I asked him a couple more questions, which he answered. And then he told me to please be quiet because he had come to tell me things. And he told me some things about the family and some things that he thought were going to happen in the future. Well, as it turns out, 23 months later, almost 2 years later exactly, my mom went to the hospital and almost died of a heart condition. And then 3 years after that, she went back to the hospital and almost died of a heart condition again because she had been taking a prescription drug that they later discovered was actually damaging people's heart.
No.
But she made it through those periods. She made it through this 2 to 6 year window that my father in the lucid dream announced was a difficult time, and she continues to live to this day. But that's the interesting thing. In a lucid dream, you can experiment, you can explore, you can ask questions. And I would feel that if a deceased dream figure gave me information that was outside of my knowing, or basically anyone's knowing, and it could later be confirmed, then it would certainly suggest that, possibly we are spiritually exist after our physical death.
Interesting topic. We have to talk more, but right now we have to take our break at the bottom of the hour. Robert Waggoner is our very special guest this hour. We're talking about lucid dreaming. His website is www.lucidadvice.com, and his magazine website is www.luciddreammagazine.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. This is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, Monday through Friday until September. We're going to be still Monday through Friday, except instead of being from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m., we're going to be back to our regular 4-hour show from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. Eastern. Robert Waggoner and I return talking about dreams. Don't go away.
Welcome to the Stairway to Heaven, a weekly update on the ever-changing high-frequency currents now bathing the planet and affecting us all. The source of vital information for the evolving human being. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. We can also be heard on TSOM Radio Network, www.tsomradionetwork.com. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Turning up the fire. This week we'll be looking at the cause of the increasing frequency on our planet and how it's affecting us all. Bear with me while I wax scientific. At this time, there are scientifically proven galactic events impacting the planet, affecting the course of human life and evolution. They've been charted by many sciences, including the Mayan calendar, developed by Mayan practitioners who were both mathematician and shaman. The cyclic events are also reflected in astrological ages and the precession of equinoxes, as studied by both ancient and modern astrologers and astronomers. These galactic phenomena are being substantiated by the findings of modern-day scientists. Dr. Dmitriev, a Russian scientist, has observed increasing plasma on the leading edge of the sun's magnetic field. He believes this is the result of the sun's magnetic field moving into an area of the galaxy where the energy is more highly charged. The increase in charge is causing excitation of the plasma on the leading edge of the sun's heliosphere, instigating more plasma to form and resulting in more luminosity or brightness. The energy is also flowing into the sun, causing it to emit increased frequency along its ecliptic or equilateral plane and saturating interplanetary space. Dmitriev has observed our solar emissions are traveling more quickly, charging up the energy or frequency of the planets as their electromagnetic or toroidal fields interact with that of the sun. The increase in luminosity is impacting all of those on the planet as well. These times and influences have been prophesied by nearly every indigenous culture. Our sun cyclically passes through this particular portion of the galaxy. Yet it's been so long since we were last here, bathed in the high frequencies, that there's no memory or practical information to go on. We have only myths, prophecies, and legends to guide us. Frequency dictates reality. The ambient frequency of our planet is rapidly rising, resulting in an evolution of reality. In short, all the rules are changing. We can no longer take the events of the past and use them to predict the future, as our future has become unprecedented. So how are we to find our way in this shifting landscape? If we explore how the ancient peoples found guidance for over 50,000 years, we see they turned to their shaman. In times of great change, shaman attune themselves to the vibration of the earth and the stars in order to maintain balance with the ever-changing frequencies of the universe and access the information to be found therein. Now, I realize there's no longer a shaman on every corner. However, the increase in frequency is offering us as individuals an opportunity to evolve into our own inner knowing and authority. For this evolution to take place, we must process out personal imbalances the increased frequency is forcing to the surface. Many of us sense that something monumental is going to take place in our lifetimes, that we can make a difference. We came to make a difference. As Earth moves into ever-increasing light during these times of intense transformation, the evolving currents affect us all. Much is being revealed within as well as without. As a result, we're going through deep initiation, individually and en masse. Sometimes we can feel isolated in the process and lose perspective as to our place in the larger scheme of things. You're not alone. We are in this together. Because of the increase in frequencies, we now have the opportunity to turn these powerful currents into tools of healing and evolution rather than suffering and denial. For over 45 years, I've been steeped in the shamanic way. I'm the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Art School, a Colorado State certified occupational school of the shamanic arts. In teaching classes and working with private clients, I'm able to observe the shifting effects of the rising frequency. As a result, it's my honor and great privilege to be able to share insights into our evolution. This leading-edge information is generously granted through embracing my personal process and assisting my shamanic clients and students to do the same. Thank you so much for joining me, Wilda Wiyaka, on the Stairway to Heaven, where we provide updates on the energetic currents facilitating our evolution into conscious, powerful co-creators. Until next time, may you be blessed on your sacred path to wholeness. We are here. The time is now.
You've been listening to The Stairway to Heaven with author Wilda Wiyaka. Her latest books, So We're Still Here, Now What? Spiritual Evolution and Personal Empowerment in a New Era, and The Science of Magic of Mysteries Volume 1 can be found on Amazon.com or wherever fine books are sold. Wilda is also the host of the very popular radio show, The Science of Magic. Past innovative episodes can be found on her website at www.thescienceofmagic.net. For long-distance sessions with Wilda or for more information on her Path Home Shamanic Art School and their upcoming block of classes, visit www.findyourpathhome.com or call area code 303-775-3431.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Wilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Join High Tech with Corey Kay weekly here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. From the world of computers to the ever-popular computerized gadgetry that are becoming part of our everyday life and living and society. From kids and their gaming devices, teens and their smartphones, to the applications of personal and business computers. From hardware to software, from standalone units to network computers. Join high-tech guru Corey Kay weekly right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network as he takes on the topics that will be of use and great value to the international audience of the X-Zone Broadcast Network. High Tech with Corey Kay, weekends at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Listening to Kevin Randall's commercial for his show, A Different Perspective, which airs Saturday nights and Sunday nights during the broadcast schedule. That can be found at www.xzbn.net. We are so happy to have some of the greatest hosts that any radio network can really appreciate. For example, Kevin Randall. Corey K., who does High Tech with Corey K., Gwilda Wiyaka, Patty Conklin, Joe Wiegand, Roberta Grimes. These are people who make a difference each and every day in the lives of many. And the entire thinking behind the X-Zone Broadcast Network is like the X-Zone Radio Show. We want to be part of the solution instead of the problem. So thank you very much for listening to the X-Zone. We're getting great reviews from you, the members of the X-Zone Nation, for the programming that we're doing at the X-Zone Broadcast Network. And if you're just joining us for the first time tonight and you're saying, what's the X-Zone Broadcast Network? Do yourself a favor, go to www.xzbn.net. We're talking about lucid dreaming this hour here in the X-Zone. My guest is Robert Waggoner. His website is www.lucidadvice.com. And he is the co-editor of a magazine that is www.luciddreammagazine.com. Robert, what are some of the type of questions that people ask you about lucid dreaming when you're out and about, or the type of questions that people email you?
Yeah, so we get all kinds of questions. I think a lot of beginners have beginner questions. Some of the first ones are, what are some of the techniques that I can use to induce lucid dreaming? And then probably one of the biggest ones is, how do I stay in a lucid dream? It's just like, just because you jump in the water doesn't mean you know how to swim. And so in lucid dreaming, my books, I try to teach people how to remain consciously aware and lucid in the dream state. Because what can happen, oftentimes people get so excited, they're just totally jazzed to be consciously aware in their dream, that they immediately wake up and they pop out. And so you have to modulate your emotions. And then the other thing is that people fail to maintain their focus. So if you think of being in a lucid in a dream, and you're exploring things and going around and visiting and seeing what you can see, if you don't maintain your awareness that it's a dream, you can get caught up in the action and forget and just return to a normal dream. And so learning how to stabilize your mind, how to maintain your focus, is another thing that we teach. But for a lot of people, it's learning the various techniques and also how to approach some of these things, like how do you physically heal or intend that in a lucid dream? Or how can I overcome a phobia, a fear, in a lucid dream? And that's what my books help people explore.
We were talking about lucid dreaming and the communication between people like yourself and the experience you had with your dad who had passed on, and how information that you were able to get from him during your encounter with your dad was proven to be right. So my question is do you think that lucid dreaming can be used as a tool to prove that, life after death is real?
I think there are ways of doing it, and one way is something that a friend of mine, Ed Kellogg, explored. Ed has a PhD in biochemistry from Duke University. He's an excellent lucid dreamer. But what he decided to do is, in lucid dreams, he would seek out recently deceased acquaintances. And oftentimes in these lucid dreams, they were quite amazing. Sometimes a guide would appear who would take him to someone who had passed away, 3 months earlier. And there Ed would see the person in their new condition, surrounded by oftentimes the things that they loved during their life, things that Ed was unaware of. And so he would make good notes in his mind about what he was seeing and what he was hearing from the person, and so on. And then when he woke up from the lucid dream, he had often asked the family, would you like to hear what I discovered in this lucid dream where I sought out your deceased loved one? And oftentimes when the families would listen, they would confirm the various details that Ed had picked up. That oh yes, their father had a fascination, with brass telescopes. And oh yes, their father, when he was in his 30s, he would always wear sunglasses and had an afro, even though Ed knew him as a 70-year-old guy who was bald. And so it's interesting. You could do this kind of thing and begin to get scientific evidence about the deceased and confirm it with the families and begin to get scientific evidence that the after-death state actually exists.
Is it possible then, Robert, based on your expertise and the experience of others that have studied the phenomenon that we call lucid dreaming, that lucid dreaming is actually another way of channeling those who have passed on?
That might be a little bit too far to say channeling, but it might be a way of interacting with those who have passed on, that engaging them. I remember another lucid dreamer, a gentleman named Karim, had written an article for our magazine, and in it he met a deceased woman, and the deceased woman showed him the ritual that her living mother did every night on the anniversary of the deceased woman's passing. And so Karim in the lucid dream has seen this ritual that the mother is performing to kind of honor the deceased daughter.
Right.
And she tells Karim, she goes, look, tell her this is no longer necessary, and that she's basically kind of emotionally abusing herself without any good reason. And Karim told the woman, and the woman was stunned because nobody knew that she was doing this ritual on the anniversary of her daughter's death. And so when you begin to collect this, you begin to see that it's more an interacting and an engaging it. Channeling might be too big a word.
Why?
Well, when I think of channeling, I think of like the books by Jane Roberts, Seth Speaks, and something where the deceased person is speaking through somebody.
Well, what I meant then is, all right, I can see the confusion here. What I mean is that could we look at lucid dreaming when connecting to a deceased loved one, that instead of having the communication going through a third party, it's a direct line to the person themselves? Right,
and that I agree with you. Yeah. It's oftentimes it's much more likely that someone's going to meet a deceased loved one in their dream state, and if they're a good lucid dreamer, they'll realize that, oh, wait a second, this can't be happening in physical reality. This must be a dream, and yes, it definitely allows for new connections to appear. And if the lucid dreamer is smart, you can ask questions. The problem, though, is oftentimes the lucid dreamer will tell the deceased person, you're dead, you don't exist, go away. And they'll sit there having an argument with them, in the lucid dream. And so oftentimes it takes the lucid dreamer a while to understand that something more might be going on here, that there might be an after-death communication happening. And so that's why it's important to ask questions and be open.
In a lucid dream state, is it possible to time travel, where you can go back in time or forward in time?
It appears that it is possible. Some lucid dreamers have done some incredible things. Again, I'm thinking of my friend Ed Kellogg. He was part of a contest that we do at the Cyber Dreaming Conference, which is an online conference that's held every fall by the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And it's an online conference to kind of investigate this idea of psi. And one contest we have is the Precognitive Dream Contest. And so what you do, everyone is to dream about an image that's going to be selected from a bank of 200 images in the future. And so everyone has to post their dreams on the forum, highlight things that they think are important. And so Ed is a wonderful dreamer and lucid dreamer. He becomes lucidly aware when he's talking to this gentleman, and he describes the scene very well. And at the end, as he's beginning to wake up, he hears the word Vermeer, like Johann Vermeer, the 17th century Dutch artist. And 2 days later, when the image is randomly selected from the bank of 200 images, it's the painting The Geographer by Vermeer. And Ed did an incredible job of kind of describing the scene and all. So you can see how you could play around with this, that you could use lucid dreaming to try to get information outside of time and wake up with it and hand it to the researchers and then wait to see if it proves to be the case. So this gets over the common concern by most parapsychologists about precognitive dreams is oftentimes the horrible incident will occur and then someone will grab their dream journal and say, oh, I dreamt about this a month ago and here it is. And so that's kind of retrocognitive, and so they hate that. But in a lucid dream, you could seek out the information, wake up with it, give it to the researcher, and let the chips fall where they may.
You know, the CIA has done experimentation, and they actually use remote viewers. I'm just wondering, based on what we're talking about tonight and the ability to time travel using lucid dreaming techniques, I wonder if the CIA and other intelligence agencies are actually using a technique like lucid dreaming.
You know, it's interesting. A good friend of mine is Dale Groff. He's written some wonderful books.
I've had him on the show.
Yep. He's a great remote viewer, and also he's a great dream expert and lucid dreamer as well. And he's had some wonderful examples of using dreams and lucid dreams to get information in the future. But I think next time you have him on the show, I think he could tell you that the U.S. government has investigated using lucid dreams as another way of getting information outside of space and time. I haven't seen the results. I think all that's classified. But in any case, I believe it has been investigated.
How can lucid dreaming be used by the younger generation children in order to either help enhance their future or to better guide them in their future?
Right. And that's the amazing thing. There was a study in Germany of 694 students from age 6 to age 19, and 51% of them were lucid dreamers. That they were naturally having lucid dreams. They had stories from young people who were as young as 6 who had lucid dreams. But I think the way they could use it to enhance their future is you learn to make friends with the shadow elements that present themselves in the dream state. So if I become lucid and there's something angry or aggressive, some aggressive dream figure, I'll tell you the best thing to do is not to fight it, not to resist it, not to run away. The best thing to do is to send it love and compassion and acceptance and understanding. Because you'll have some angry ogre and you send it love and compassion, and all of a sudden it shrinks down, you know, to a happy 5-year-old boy or something. And so if children can be taught by their parents, okay, when you become consciously aware and you see the witch, and you only see the witch in the dream state, so you know it's a dream, you know, ask her, does she have a gift for you? Does she want to play? What does she have to tell you? When you learn how to be more aware in your relating, then you learn how to make it through, you know, this realm of the dream state and make it through your own psyche and make peace there so you can explore more thoughtfully.
You know, I can see so many possibilities in the application of lucid dreaming. Are there any universities that are doing serious studies on lucid dreaming?
You know, there are. There's some lucid dream researchers at Heidelberg in Germany, Bern in Switzerland. I believe there's lucid dream researchers there in Montreal at some of the universities there, some of the sleep laboratories. I believe some lucid dream research continues to go on here in the U.S., but it's one of these areas that probably, if you added up all the research money that they get throughout the year, it's probably less than $1 million or something. which is to say that they just hardly get any research funds at all to explore lucid dreaming. So it's one of these areas that still has so much potential, but it's just not being given the
funding,
money and attention, funding that it needs.
If someone is lucid dreaming, is there any harm that they could either get physically hurt or mentally hurt during a lucid dream?
What I tell people, I go, look, what I hear is people having fun, exploring, and all this kind of stuff. But I tell them that in my mind, lucid dreaming is as safe as watching TV, and I say that knowing that every year in North America, there's dozens of people who are hurt when a TV falls on them, or something like that. So it's rare. It's super rare. But when I go and give talks to colleges and universities, I'll tell students, I'll go, look, if you cannot handle waking reality, don't try to become a lucid dreamer. Don't if you're depressed or dealing with issues, get those settled before you try to become a lucid dreamer. And so I don't see much reason for caution except in those rare instances.
We've got about a minute and a half left. When it comes to those who want to become lucid dreamers, are you noticing any tendencies? For example, are more women interested in lucid dreaming, or is it the other way around? Are there any age variances, any specific age groups, or is it everyone?
It seems like teenagers are the ones who get most enthused about it because they probably have their first lucid dream. When they first did surveys of lucid dreaming, it seemed like women had more lucid dreams naturally than men. But then when they figured out that women just recall more dreams than men, and they took that into account, it seemed to kind of say that it's an equal opportunity gender sport, lucid dreaming is. But you see interests all around, and some people tell me that by reading my books, they realize the potential, because they had taught themselves how to lucid dream 30 years ago when the information first came out, the scientific evidence, but they didn't see the potential in it. And when you see the potential for physical healing, for emotional healing, for accessing creativity, then you really see that there's much more that you can do here. So it's something that, I've taught people who are in their 70s who've had their first lucid dreams, and some of them have shocked me how well they've done. So it's an equal opportunity psychological tool.
Listen, the time has come when you and I must say so long again, my friend. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and where they can get your books. Yeah,
so you can check out my book's website at lucidadvice.com. You can check out our free online magazine at luciddreammagazine.com, and you can click on the past issues and read 10 years of past issues.
Wow.
But you can also find my book at major bookstores, your independent bookstore. You can ask for it, or you can also find it on Amazon. And that's Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self. That's for advanced lucid dreamers. And then Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. That's for beginners who want to learn the tips and techniques.
Robert, thank you ever so much for joining us. A great pleasure talking to you again, and keep up the great work.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much, Rob.
Good night, Robert. Exonation Robert Waggoner has been my guest this hour, and once again, his websites are www.lucidadvice.com and his online magazine, www.luciddreammagazine.com. Now, coming up next, an exclusive here on the X Zone. Kevin Randle talks to Robert Fellows in a different perspective. My name is Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. You are not going to want to miss the next hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.